It's a nice color though.
I appreciate that.
Shirt to match.
You know how we do.
Yeah.
Like Pop said, you gotta coordinate.
Yeah.
Hey, coordinate.
Peace, Noble. Peace.
Peace, Noble Dantes.
All right. Y'all see the screen? All right. What happened? Yeah, bro. Okay, there we go.
Charles A. Wiseman went first though.
Oh, my bad. Hold on. My bad. You did say that.
My glasses. Man. They hooked me up. These motherfuckers.
Let me know when you're ready, Barkley. I'll go live.
Yeah, just 1 second. Give me 37 seconds. Count it out. Anyways, yeah, I'm ready to go, man. Y'all see the screen?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We're live. Peace.
Peace.
We live?
No.
You live, Steve? You good?
Peace, everybody. How y'all doing? Hope everybody having a great day.
Right.
But before we get started with our history, adapt, and civics class, without further ado, let's do our Moorish American prayer, if you don't mind. One of my nobles.
Allah,
Oh,
Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my God, and my salvation, my night and my day. You is holy prophet, Noble Ali, Shalom Aleichem, Ayah Sha'aya, Islam, Hotel, Amen. Peace.
Peace to all my brothers and sisters, and to everybody here that's joining us today. I say peace to y'all.
peace and love.
Peace and love. But today we're going to be going over a document today, which you can see on here. It's Charles A. Wiseman, a trustee on arrest and false imprisonment. Everybody had that document, right?
Islam.
Correct. Islam.
Let me see, put it up. Let me see it. All right. So give everybody a second. Give everybody a second to get all settled in. We're going to have a good one. 1 second. All right, let's indulge. Anybody familiar with Charles A. Wiseman?
I've heard him before. I'm not, yeah, I have heard of the author before.
Well, today we're going to just touch on some importance of law and what law really means. I sent you another little preface. I don't know if Solomon got it. It was just a little small document on what law is and what it consists of. But as I continue to teach on these topics, I'm also going to get into life, liberty, and property. This is another document and lesson that we teach over about just what it is and what it consists of and how you need to know these things. So as we go to the preface, some of the introduction of a trustee on arrest and false imprisonment. A trustee on arrest and false imprisonment by Charles A. Wiseman. Here go the contents of the introduction. Definition of false imprisonment. What constitutes false imprisonment? The length of time required. Damages and liability. Malicious prosecution. Arrest without warrant. The law of the land. Summons. Complaints. Memorandum of law on arrest without warrant. Breach of the peace and felony arrest. What is a breach of the peace? Arrest for breach of the peace. Threatened breach of the peace. Conditions of felony arrest. Defenses to unlawful arrest. Burden of proof. Good faith and probable cause. Ignorance of law. Guilt of party arrest. Immunity. The use of a warrant in arrest. Warrant to be in the possession of the arresting officer. Warrant to be shown upon arrest. Are y'all following me? Okay. All these things must be valid. Invalid and unlawful warrants. Bringing arrest person before a magistrate. Duty of the officer as a trespasser, abi inito. Detainment is not a decision of arresting officer. Detainment is not a decision of arresting officer. I hope we caught that. Arresting and releasing without bringing before a magistrate. And then defenses. Next, we got distortions of fundamental law. What are those consist of? Due process neglected. What is due process? Not when nobody telling you on the internet to break laws. Fourth Amendment argument. Highway traffic laws. Resisting arrest. Handcuffing. Post-arrest booking procedures. Fingerprinting, etc. Why you don't want to get fingerprinted if you're not under arrest. All these things. Here you go. Limitations upon arrest. These are rights that you got to know as an American. Not just because you claim to be some this. I'm talking about as an American. You see? These is keys that we should have a clear understanding of as we get into the introduction. This book is about liberty. Everybody wants life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Everybody wants life, liberty, and property. Our hope. And this is about liberty. It's about the lawful and unlawful means by which government acts in depriving an individual of his or her liberty. See? History teaches that deprivation of liberty is more often arbitrary. You got to know what arbitrary means, and unlawful than it is otherwise. At least this is always the tendency of those who hold executive power. Daniel Webster once stated this problem in these words, and I quote, eloquently with a silver tongue. The contest for ages has been to rescue liberty from the grasp of the executive power. Liberty is taken away or deprived most commonly by arrest and imprisonment. The practice of easy arrest and secret imprisonments has always been an earmark of a despotic executive power. To compound this problem, we have the legislative mills, which turn out thousands of new laws every year. The passion of modern legislators to regulate, every facet of the most intimate concerns of everyday life is notorious, nobles. So I'm just giving you a highlight of what we're going, where we're going, and what we're talking about. See, this would be oppressive enough if administered under the requirements of a warrant or a summons, but it becomes doubly intolerable if every zealous officer is authorized to arrest on sight every person whom he detects breaking one of these laws. No one can be safe to leave their home or to travel about for fear of being subject to thousands of unknown laws in which he could be instantly arrested for transgressing. One law review writer states that the problem as follows, and I quote again, people no longer live their whole lives in the village in which they were born. They pass freely from place to place, and in the transit and through innumerable towns and villages. The risk of being arrested on sight because one's conduct contravenes some regulation which the wisdom of the local solemns deems necessary is appalling to any thinking person. It would be impossible to know at what moment one might become amenable to arrest. You see? So what I'm saying is knowing and having a clear understanding as we continue to highlight this. A revolution in England and the revolution of the American colonies are said by high authorities to have been largely influenced by promiscuous seizures and searches of persons and property. The history of our ancestors over the centuries teaches that a people cannot be free where the executive power can arbitrarily arrest or imprison citizens or ransack at will the property of the people. The executive power is limited and guided by the law of the land or due process of law. And if it was a restriction upon the King of England during these times, it must be so for every petty officer today. Understand what I'm saying? See, we just highlighting the teachings. And many of the trustees in the treatise, on the law pertaining to the rights of citizens, and in many of the older and better court cases, we find the declaration, the law is very jealous of the liberty of the citizen, What law is it that so regards liberty? It is the common law. It is the common law. And it declares that one who interferes with another's liberty does so at his peril. This law also prescribes how arrests are to be made and the restrictions involved. See? So what constitutes false imprisonment? False imprisonment consists of any type of unlawful restraint or interference with the personal liberty of an individual. It basically involves any unlawful violation of the liberty of another. The ancient English legal scholar Henry D. Bracton, 1200 to 1268, tells us that false imprisonment is one of the oldest violations of rights known. That's something. Forcefully to deprive a man or woman of freedom to go wheresoever he or she may is clearly a trespass. False imprisonment was indeed one of the first trespasses recognized by the common law. False imprisonment is classified as a tort under the common law and also as a crime. It has been labeled as a tort, a trespass, an assault, a wrong, a damage, and an injury, giving one cause to bring suit against another for a remedy. Depriving a person of their liberty is legally no different than depriving a person of their property. A theft of liberty is a wrong by which remedy can be had, just as is the case with the theft of property. False imprisonment is a great offense due to the high regard the law has for liberty. In Treatise practice of the law, it states, and I quote again, the infraction of personal liberty has ever been regarded as one of the greatest injuries. I hope do you know what we're saying? So all these freedoms, you have to know who you are, because this is an infraction. What? Of imprisonment, false imprisonment. The injuries to liberty are principally termed false imprisonment or malicious prosecutions. Unlawful detention or deprivation of liberty is the basis of an action for the tort of false imprisonment. Actually, seizure or the laying on of hands is not necessary to constitute an unlawful detention. Thus, the only essential element of that action are 1, detention or restraint against one will, and 2, the unlawfulness of such detention or restraint. In his treatise on the law of torts, Judge Cooley states, and I quote, false imprisonment is a wrong akin to the wrongs of assaults and battery, and consists in imposing by force or threats an unlawful restraint upon a man or woman's freedom of locomotion. That means to move to and fro. Blackstone, in his commentaries on the law, you can look this up in reference 3, BL.COMM.127. That's how you can look it up. States on this matter, every confinement of the person is an imprisonment, whether it be in a common prison or in a private house or in the stocks, or even by forcibly detaining one in the public streets. In the public streets, how? By putting you in a car, by putting you in handcuffs. All these things. You see? Oh, my. You see, we're talking about rights. Thus, any type of detainment or confinement of a person or restriction or deprivation of their liberty of freedom of locomotion, where he is compelled to remain where he does not wish to remain, or to go where he or she does not wish to go, is an imprisonment. Is an imprisonment. Is an imprisonment. The only question thereafter is whether or not the imprisonment is false. See? The word false comes from the common law and is a synonym or synonymous with unlawful. A false arrest is one means of committing a false imprisonment. See, this ain't got nothing to do with no more this, no more that. I don't want to hear all that. Ain't no magically law. We talk about human rights as an American in describing false imprisonment as being the unlawful restraint of the liberty of the citizen or of the primary right of freedom of locomotion. The Supreme Court of Idaho also states, and I quote, imprisonment is a restraint of the personal liberty of another and prevention of his movements from place to place or his free action according to his own pleasure and will. It is false imprisonment when this is done without lawful authority. In reviewing several textbooks definitions of false imprisonment, the Supreme Court of North Carolina states, and I quote, false imprisonment is the unlawful and total restraint of the liberty of the person. The imprisonment is false in the sense of being unlawful. See? The right violated by the tort is the freedom of locomotion. That's the whole law they're breaking. What? The freedom of locomotion. It belongs historically to the class of rights known as what? Simple or primary rights. Just like another thing, simple or primary, primary simple. The theory of law is the one interferes with the freedom of locomotion of another at his own peril. A rather complete description of what does and does not constitute false imprisonment was given by the Supreme Court nobles of Kansas, and I quote again: false imprisonment is necessarily a wrongful interference with the personal liberty of an individual. The wrong may be committed by words alone, or by acts alone, or by both, and by merely operating on the will of the individual, or by personal violence, or by both. It is not necessarily the individual be confined within a prison or within those prison walls per se, or that he be assaulted or even touched. It is not necessary that there should be any injury done to the individual's person or to his character or reputation, nor is it necessary that the wrongful act be committed with malice or ill will. That don't matter neither, or even with the slightest wrongful intention, nor is it necessary that the act be under color of any legal or judicial proceedings. All that is necessary is that the individual be restrained of his or her liberty without any sufficient legal cause, therefore, and by words or acts which he fears to disregard. So, false imprisonment exists not only by words or acts that one fears, see? But what happened to disregard, but also by such acts and measures that he cannot disregard. No fear of disobedience needed to exist. So if someone causes a situation that makes it impossible for another to exercise their liberty or locomotion, which is to move to and fro, it is a false imprisonment. And false imprisonment is the name of the category for those torts that unlawfully deprive or interfere with the liberty of a person. And under this category, the unlawful arrest is the most common type of wrong committed. And another common way in which a wrong of this nature occurs is by the unlawful detention of a person in a room, a jail, or other locations. So definitions of false imprisonment usually come from the unlawful restraints of this nature. And false imprisonment has been well defined to be a trespass committed by one man against the person of another, by unlawful arresting him and detaining him without any legal authority. And the law sets such a high value upon the liberty of the citizen that even an attempt to unlawfully arrest is esteemed a great provocation, nobles. All the authorities agree that an arrest may be made either with or without any physical force or actual touching by the officer. This is true. Thus, any illegal restraint of one's personal liberty by the act of another gives that person a cause of action for false imprisonment against the one causing the illegal restraint. Look this up. Prima facie, any restraint put by fear or force is unlawful. Look it up. False imprisonment is necessarily a wrongful interference with the personal liberty of an individual, usually made by an arrest in physical custody or restraint. It's not essential to the, it just don't add up to the arrest. So if an officer tells a person in this analogy that he is under arrest, when you ask an officer, am I under arrest? Which you should never ask no officer, is you under arrest? Why are you under arrest? You ain't did nothing. You got everything legit. You shouldn't ask no officer under arrest. Well, they say, no, you ain't under arrest. I'm detaining you. Then what? See? And he thereupon submits himself to the officer, going with him and obeying his orders. Such person is deprived of his liberty. And if if the act of the officer is unlawful, it is false imprisonment. But not when the officer say you willingly did this. In all cases in which there is no physical touching or seizure, nor any restraint, the intentions of parties to the transactions are to be considered. That's why you say you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You ain't getting immunity. You telling on yourself. Where you coming from? McDonald's. McDonald's ain't open. Oh, so now in the court, he lied. What you mean he lied? He said he was coming from McDonald's and McDonald's ain't open. Oh, so now you a liar. Oh, we got you as a liar on record. You see? In all cases in which there is no physical touching, no seizures, none of that stuff. In such a case, there must have been intent on that part of one of them to arrest or restrain the other, and intent on the part of such other to submit. I'll give you a prime analogy. When the state police in the city of Flint, Michigan, because that's where I'm at, you see the state police just target urban communities. And they be doing all that stuff, chasing those people in those communities for small traffic violations. Because that's all it is a traffic infraction. And the following definitions will provide further insight into the nature and elements of false imprisonment. We're talking about false imprisonment. We're not talking about breaking the law. The following definition will prove it. False imprisonment is the unlawful restraint by one person of the physical liberty of another. And has here used the word false, seems to be synonymous with unlawful. You see? Any exercise of force or express or implied threat of force by which in fact the other person is deprived of his or her liberty, compelled to remain where he does not wish to remain, or go where he or she does not wish to go, is an imprisonment. Point blank. I got my license, registration, proof of insurance. I don't want to know. I don't want to sit in your car. I don't want to be held up. None of that. None of that. None of that stuff. False imprisonment is the unlawful arrest or detention of a person without warrant or by any illegal warrant or a warrant illegally executed. I ain't talking about being, how can I say it, cordial and really, I don't even answer questions. I just got to get on my way if you legit, because you have no business messing with me. You don't get into a confrontation. The whole thing is to leave. Any restraint, however slight, upon another's liberty to come and go as he pleases constitutes an arrest. So these are things we should know. This ain't me. This is Charles A. Wiseman, a trustee of, yes, go ahead.
Peace. So so if anyone gets into a patrol car or without touch, like you said, without seizure, or just by maybe request or anything of that nature, then you are, of course, a willing obligor, but they wouldn't even consider that an arrest because you went without seizure and you went willingly.
Yep.
So when we come into the seizure part, when he either has to touch you or she has to touch you, and you are then held up in any type of way, that's what's in an arrest.
Yep.
So basically saying, if you stop and answer a question willingly, that's you willingly stopping to answer a question.
Yep.
But after you answer that question, if you choose to do so, and then you leave on your own regard, and if you're held up in that case, then what we have is an arrest.
Islam. Absolutely. Because you got the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. So if you're going out seeing the cops say, where you coming from? Man, license, registration, proof of insurance. I could have came from the moon. It ain't nobody business where you going. You could be going in circles if you want to. You see? So we're talking about these things and a clear understanding. We're talking about the breakdown, the tort of wrong or false imprisonment occurs the instant that one is restrained in the exercise of their liberty. In the act when you are restrained in the exercise of your liberty. In the instance that one is restrained in the exercise of their liberty. There is no unreasonable length of time for a restraint before the tort can be claimed. Understand that. Understand what Alonzo just said, what Noble just said. Because when you engage, man, there's no engage. I'm not here. That's nothing. There's nothing to happen with that. So false imprisonment at common law and elsewhere consists in the unlawful detention of the person of another for any time whereby he is deprived of his personal liberty. Anybody else? Come on, we in class. We got a little bit more to go. Anybody can speak, anybody can add. See, watch this. Where two people are traveling in a car and stopped by police, and the party not driving is put in the police car and told to wait. That happened to people before. I've done this in college. The officer doing so is guilty of false imprisonment. Off the dribble. Off the top. He know it, but he know you don't know it. Even though the person was in the police car for less than a minute, it was an arrest. I'm telling you, and they know it, as the officer had no authority for confining him in the car. Because why you putting me in your car? No reason. I ain't getting in your car and waiting you. Why? Even where police officers stops a moving vehicle for a brief detention, it is sufficient to constitute an arrest. Where no one is told to stay in their car by an officer, though it be for only 10 seconds, it is an arrest. Time duration is not a factor in making an arrest. Did y'all hear that, nobles? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
This is law. This ain't no more stuff. This ain't no stuff we got. Oh, there's some more, man. Forget that more mumbo jumbo. I ain't one of them. False imprisonment is defined as an act which directly or indirectly is a legal cause of confinement of another within boundaries fixed by the actor for any time, no matter how short in duration, makes the actor liable to the other. When one is approached by an officer and questioned about his identity and actions, this is only an accosting, not an arrest. See? Damages and liability. One who interferes with another's liberty of locomotion does so at his own peril, meaning he doing it at his own. All who do so without lawful authority can be sued for the trespass upon liberty and loss of time. Just like, watch this. In school, we did a case, and we had to come up with how were the police liable for this man getting arrested because these cops were just messing with this brother every day, making him late for work every day. And so he done had his camera set up, and he had a great job. And it was like, man, you late every day. He like, man, this same cop messing with me every day, pulling me over, and the people didn't believe him. This cop was pulling him over every day for no reason. You see what I'm saying? Got him, for making him late just for a split second, and he knew what he was doing. Told him that's what he was gonna do. You know what I mean? And bam. So yeah, it's a very serious thing to deprive a person of their liberty. Since false imprisonment is a wrong suffered by a person, the person is entitled to receive a remedy for damages. Not only is a person entitled to receive a remedy for the deprivation of his or her liberty, nobles, but also for any other damages that are a result of that deprivation. What? Making me late for work. Making me late for work every day. Yeah. False imprisonment was an indictable offense at common law and relief by the party. Aggrieved was obtained by an act for the trespass with force and arms. The illegal arrest of a person without a warrant, nobles, or under an invalid warrant, nobles, entitles him to compensation for the damages sustained by reason of the false or unlawful imprisonment. And the general rule, nobles, of damages in cases of false imprisonment is that the person called in a wrongful imprisonment is liable for all the natural and probable consequences thereof, the plaintiff is entitled to recover damages for what the party wrongful did. In Murphy versus Countess, Murphy versus Countiss, in an action for trespass, assault and battery, and false imprisonment, the court held that the plaintiff could recover, not merely for the time the constable was bringing him to jail, but for the whole period of his imprisonment. And in Manville versus Gershny, 99, the court said the arrest being wrongful, the defendant is liable for all the injuries, consequences to the plaintiff which resulted directly from the wrongful act. Unlawful interference with or injuries to the liberty of a citizen is a violation of his natural, inherent, and absolute rights, which damages result as a legal consequence. So I can go all the way back when our brothers and sisters, when I say you're not Negro, black, and colored, because Negro, black, and colored had no rights. You were silver mortgage. You was dead in the eyes of the law. This is no game. The Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15, clearly tell us this. I'm telling you, everything was law. This is no make-up science. This is all through history. A false imprisonment generally includes an assault and battery, and always at least a technical assault. So these are just keys we got to know about. I'm going to jump all the way in chapter 3 when I talk about arrest without warrant. The law of the land. The authority to arrest without warrant was rather limited and well defined at common law, a law which has been made part of our constitutional law in the due process provisions. I'm in chapter 3 with arrest without warrant, nobles. The common law rule on arrest is based on experience and common sense. See? As a general rule at common law, an arrest could not be made without a warrant. Thus, the right to arrest a person without a warrant is an exception to the general rule. This simple rule was expressed by Justice Carpenter in delivering an opinion for the Supreme Court of Michigan as follows. The law governing this case is elementary, except for a breach of the peace committed in his presence, or when he has a reasonable ground to believe that the person arrested is a felon or is about to commit a felony. A police officer has no authority to arrest without a warrant. The objective in this law was to have a balance between preserving liberty and preserving the peace. Those who committed the most heinous crimes, that being felonies, were a threat to the safety of society and could be similarly deprived of their liberty by arrest, and those committing a breach of the peace could also be similarly arrested, not for apprehension as a criminal, but to preserve the peace. But for other offenses, a summary arrest had to yield to the liberty of the citizen. So the liberty of the citizens is too sacred to be left to the arbitrary will of men. Even the biblical scriptures tell you this. Because everyone should know what felonies are. And the most common felonies are murder, rape, kidnapping, sodomy, armed robbery. They say abortion, but pedophilia, treason, arson. That's what they say. This is what the law say. This is what they say. A breach of the peace is also obvious, as well known. Therefore, everyone's liberty was safe since all knew for what reason they could or could not be arrested. You see? All is common when they say there's no excuse of knowing the law. There's no excuse of not knowing the law in a court of law. No excuse. So that means you shouldn't be breaking nothing. Nobody that say they are more should be leading you in no burning house. Why? Because we're not here to break no constitution or start no new constitution. We're here to defend it. I broke that down last night when me and the nobles was live, when we had our little bill with Maso. You see? It's also a memorandum of law on the subject of arrest without warrant, which is legal proof of the law that have existed for hundreds of years on this matter. So when I speak of things, man, I'm not talking about nothing new. On page 10, you can see the state of Minnesota, District Court, Court of Hennepin, the 4th Judicial District, Charles A. Wiseman plaintiff versus Mark L. Finan, defendant. Look at it for yourself. See, man, when we come, man, we come correct. We're not coming with no arbitrary explanation. We're not coming with trying to tell you who you are and who you not. We know who we are. We Americans. We know what type of Americans we are too. So let's read this to defendant above name. You are hereby summoned and required to serve upon the plaintiff and answer the complaint, which is herewith served upon you within 20 days after service of this summons upon you exclusively of the day of service. If you fail to do so, judgment by default will be taken against you for the relief request in the complaint. That was Charles A. Wiseman, and on the second page you can see what the whole thing is. The plaintiff for his complaint against defendant states all alleges on September 30th, 1992, plaintiff was traveling in his automobile on a public highway called, the highway I-35W between Richfield and Minneapolis, going northbound when stopped by the defendant acting as a highway patrolman, an employee of the state of Minnesota. The defendant asked plaintiff to see his driver's license. The plaintiff explains that he is not a licensee under any board of commissions and is not required to be a licensee. The defendant insisted that the plaintiff must have the said license. The defendant then arrested, searched, and handcuffed the plaintiff without warrant, and over his objections, the defendant acts were in violation of plaintiff rights and the constitutional provisions of due process of law. The defendant gave no specific charges to the plaintiff for his being stopped or for his arrest, nor did he advise him of his rights, as shown in the defendant's field report, which contained only traffic misdemeanors charges. A copy of this report and an official complaint was received by plaintiff 2 months after the arrest. The defendant brought the plaintiff to the Hennepin County Jail, where the defendant knew that the plaintiff would be the subject to booking, which included fingerprinting, photography, and confinement of a time of a period, meaning they taking you, from your locomotion, and possibly be subject to other types of assaults and batteries. Yep, fines and all that, court fees. That's assault and battery. Further, the plaintiff, by his own admission, made no attempt to bring the defendant before a magistrate or judge when he had full opportunity to do so, being that the arrest occurred about 10:15 a.m. on a Wednesday. The defendant, acting on his own accord and without warrant or court order, had the plaintiff's automobile towed to an impoundment lot and put in on a hold order. Plaintiff realigning paragraph 1 through 7. On September 30th, 1992, the defendant without warrant or due process of law, showing you where the court case was at, unlawfully arrested the plaintiff, the officer, and acting contrary to law, did falsely imprison the plaintiff, depriving him of his liberty. Do y'all see that? As a result of the defendant's false imprisonment of the plaintiff had his right to liberty violated, suffered mental anguish and a loss of time and wages in his work, and as a direct in his reputation by his failure to attend a scheduled meeting. You see that? You see that, nobles? We ain't saying doing what them other brothers doing with them fake plates. We ain't talking about that goofy stuff. We ain't talking about William Sovereignty. No, boy. Don't get it twisted. That ain't what we talking about, buddy. Please stay correct. See, we breaking it down the right way. You see what this is all about from the eyes of the law. You see in court 2, the false imprisonment, plaintiff realigns paragraph 1 and 7. The defendant, upon arresting plaintiff, brought him to the county jail for the purpose of booking, detaining him, and by his own admission, made no attempt to bring him to the plaintiff before a judge, and it required by due process. See, when people talk about due process, that is a part of due process. It's required by due process. When you look up the requirements of due process in this context, that's why I be laughing when I say people don't know what due process. when you're dealing with specific court cases and arrest and false imprisonment. The acts of the defendant in deciding how the deal with the plaintiff after his or her arrest and failing to take him or her to a judge or court to so decide constitutes false imprisonment by the defendant under the law of the land. Minnesota Constitutional Law, Article 1, Section 2. Research it, my brothers and sisters. We almost done. We almost done. Count 3, assault and battery. Plaintiff realigns paragraph 1 and 7 again. Due to the unlawful acts of the defendant, the plaintiff suffered a series of assaults and batteries upon his person, including arrest, handcuffing, imprisonment, physically search, forced fingerprinting, and booking procedures, and harassment. Because why? That's book fingerprinting. And my boy, what's his name? Kawanza King Kafu. I forget my brother's name. But he wrote the books, The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys and Girls. And I tell you, like how they do now in the 4th grade, they get these young babies and they fingerprint them. And then when they get in trouble, they got a record of them. See, a lot of judges and prosecutor attorneys.
You talking about Milana Karinga?
Huh?
Was the brother named Milana Karinga?
That wrote the books, The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys and Girls?
Yes.
King Khufu or something like that. Ain't it?
Oh, King Khufu. The Karinga brother.
Ron Karinga. Oh no, Ron Karinga, the one that came up with that Kwanzaa mess.
That's that brother? That's where I get that name? Oh.
Yeah, that's where you get that from.
I'm confusing them.
Yeah.
With two different things.
But but the brother that wrote the series, The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys and Girls, is Khufu. I'm misquoting. I got his books. But the whole theory of getting you fingerprinted and all that stuff, you don't want that.
That's Kafele.
Yeah,
Kafele.
yeah. And those are good series, and it's all valid today.
Kafele.
Say what, Noble?
That's actually a family member of ours. That Kafele, Rudy Kafele, his mom.
Islam. And therefore, the plaintiff demands judgment against the defendant as his liberty appears in the sum of $10,000, together with the cost of distribution, of disbursements. And this was dated June 24th, 1993. You can see the whole case. You can see the arguments and statements of law. You can see that the defendant claims that his arrest of the plaintiff without warrant for the violation of the 2 traffic laws was unlawful. Traffic infractions. He didn't break the law. Defendant claims that he is authorized by statute to make arrests for any violation of laws of the state, whether they are a misdemeanor or a felony when committed in his presence. The fact of this case led to the conclusion of the law that the defendant did not have any lawful authority to arrest the plaintiff, and the defendant had no warrant for the arrest of the plaintiff, and he alleges that he only saw plaintiff commit a misdemeanor, i.e. a traffic violation. There was no claim of a felony committed or of a breach of peace committed. At common law and under the provisions of due process of law, such an arrest without a warrant cannot be made, since the arrest deprived the plaintiff of his liberty by an act not pursuant to due process of law. The arrest is unlawful. Due process is not determined by the legislator. I hope we catching this, y'all. I'm going to stop right there. Because I don't even want to get all the way deep in it. I don't want to get you too deep in it. But I'll do like a Quentin Tarantino movie. I'll do this for you. Due process of law, which declares that no citizen shall be deprived of any of his rights of life, liberty, or property, unless by the law of the land or the judgment of his peers. It is controlling factor in the matter of the arrest made by the defendant. And an arrest is a deprivation of one's liberty, and the due process that must be followed in an arrest is the process which exceeds at common law. See? So to prevent the exercise of arbitrary power at the discretion of government it was deemed wise to secure the principles already settled in the common law upon this vital point of civil liberty in written constitutions. Cooley in the Constitution. It's there. I don't want to get all into the cases, but nobles, you have this. We're going to keep going into this as we continue to teach. But I'll give you in conclusion, it is a maxim of law that liberty is more favored than all things. Thus the law favors liberty above all things and applies the most liberal interpretation to it. The common law rule regarding the procedure and process for arresting was established in this country, in this country, in Allard versus Wayne in Michigan, and Mr. Justice Campbell says, the Constitution has always provided that no one shall be deprived of liberty without due process of law, and has provided that no warrant shall issue except upon oath or affirmation establishing probable cause. It has been settled for centuries, and the doctrine has been recognized here, that except in cases of reasonable belief of treason or felony or breach of the peace committed in presence of an officer, there is no due process of law without a warrant issued by a court or magistrate upon a proper showing or finding. It is thus fundamental that the due process clause of the Constitution protects citizens from unlawful arrest. But these Moors talk about they're not an American citizen. They're a foreign national. I'm a foreign national. How the heck you a foreign national? That's an oxymoron. You ain't even got no dual citizenship. What makes you a foreign national? I'll wait. I don't know, but who cares? State versus Quinn. By the common law, which is the law due process guarantees, a citizen cannot be summarily arrested when he is found violating a law that is only a misdemeanor. A warrant must first be acquired to arrest such a person, pursuant to due process of law. If that which constitutes due process of law is made to depend upon the will of the legislature, as expressed in a statute or a charter, then no fundamental principles of law or rights are perpetuated or secured against abrogation. So an arrest is a deprivation, nobles, of one's liberty. The state constitution requires that, and I quote, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And the procedure for arrest under the common law is what constitutes due process today. And the Minnesota Supreme Court held what is due process of law is usually a traditional or historically question. Was it due process of law under the common law? And did it remain such up to the time of adopting the Constitution? So the law is very jealous of the liberty of the citizen. I hope y'all heard what I just said. Where the offense is less serious, the greater the formality prescribed for the exercise of power, which can deprive the citizen of his liberty. Research a precedent in law case, Porter versus the state. The citizen cannot be similarly deprived of his liberty because of his infraction of some ordinance or statute, unless at common law he was liable to arrest. The misdemeanor traffic statute involved in this case is such that it does not allow the defendant to arrest the plaintiff without the formality of a warrant. I hope y'all understand this. Therefore, the defendant is guilty of false imprisonment for arresting the plaintiff without authority of law. And foregoing prove that the common law surrounding arrest was always recognized in this country and is thus a requirement for due process. In depriving the plaintiff of his liberty, it is the law of the land. It's the law of the land. As such, these principles are constitutionally mandates and cannot be abrogated by mere statutes. So we have to understand that. I don't want to get into the breach of pieces and all those different contexts of it, because we can go on and on. But we have the documents, which is so every brother and sister need, which we coming from a trustee on arrest and false imprisonment. And I did this demonstration in college, man, years ago, man, when I got my dual master's degree at GCU. And, you know, I did a dissertation on a lot of science. But as we close, the last document that's really is going to be valuable, that really get specific in what we're talking about as we go to the next level of learning, as we get from, I like to call this the elementary wisdom, until we get to the higher science. Because right now, we in elementary wisdom. We just indulged in what? Where do we stop at? Arrest without warrant. That's where we was at. We didn't get in the breach of the peace and felony arrest. We'll get to that next week. As we get to that next week, nobles, read on it. Ask some questions. Because a lot of these brothers out here in the world, and I love all my brothers and sisters, some may be sincere, and a lot of them are sincerely wrong. And we don't have to say any names. But you cannot arbitrarily explain the law. And when you play around with these laws, you will get in trouble, and you will get your people in trouble. And we've been going for 5 years, and I say we operate under the parameters of all law. So as we close, nobles, you got to understand what life, liberty, and property consist of. And the next demonstration, when we add from where we stopped at, and I add this next week, we're going to be on the subject and a course, and it's going to examine the meaning behind the phrase life, liberty, and property, and its role in our history. We're going to break down the rights of life, liberty, and property, entail all that is important in our earthly life. Thus, all political conflicts between people and their governments have centered around this concept. See, these are things that I learned in academia. See, you don't get this just being someone without the keys of understanding and learning. This is sitting right in the universities. So our brothers and sisters like myself and others have to bring this science out. Learn what due process of law and the law of the land really consist of in regards to the protection of your rights. It must be remembered, my brothers and sisters, that one who does not understand the law, does not understand his or her rights, and is thus no better off than one who has no rights. And when we jump into this science, and when I indulge in this course of wisdom, we're going to cover some critical legal and historical information needed to reestablish your rights and the political foundations which are being destroyed. See, every scholar and educator know what I'm talking about. Every brother that look like me, that call himself a black history or they know civics, what they're doing is coming from Eurocentric and Negrocentric propaganda. And I'm telling you, I deal with the mental, I deal with the mind, I deal with the law. I'm not arbitrarily explaining nothing. I want you to see it with your own eye. You see? I want you to see this with your own eye. So, as we talk about these things, one of the lessons that I'm gonna jump in next week is life, liberty, and property. When I talk about the basis of life, liberty, and property, we talk about the definitions of life, liberty, and property. All these things. In lesson 2, we're gonna go over the law of the land, nature of the law of the land, the Magna Carta and the English law, and confirmation of the Magna Carta. And we're gonna stop at lesson 3. And we're going to talk about the law of the land, American law of the land, and the unwritten constitution of the United States. You see? Because all this stuff is in law. And a lot of our brothers and sisters arbitrarily explain the law, and then when they get in trouble, they be like, oh, I didn't know that. Well, it's too late. Like lesson 7 is the religious aspects of life, liberty, and property. Conforming to the law of God, colonial ministries of liberty. I'll give you a prime example. When a lot of brothers talk that black this, black that, and I say a black preacher have no rights that a priest have. Because priests, like myself and others, we have lawyer and client confidentiality. Negro preachers have no rights. You will get summoned by any court. Guaranteed. You don't have to be mad at me saying it. I'm just telling you what I know. Hey, it is what it is. I tell you, the law is always clear. The law is clear. You don't. I tell people you don't put nothing black on me. Nothing. Nothing. Black is not ancient. I'm not here to have an argument with no one. If you consider that you Negro, black, and color, then that's on you. An African American, we can get with history and tell you what all that means. If you think it means something else, if you think it's something to freedom, well, that's on you. I'm not here to have a discussion with anyone. I'm here to tell you when it becomes to your rights as an American, and as an American citizen. Let's see if you think this Negro, black, and colored things have something to do with your rights. Until this day, if any law was amended or overthrown. Any questions? You on mute, Noble Lamar.
Questions? I mean, no. I mean, it seems pretty clear. I don't think we're the ones that have the question. I think there's a lot of people out there that do, but they're not here. And even if you try to share it, they wouldn't want them. So I mean, we've been with you for 4 years. I mean, we've heard this lesson.
Yeah.
I mean, so many times. So I we don't really have the questions. It's pretty clear. If you operate right, then you have the basis and foundation. To stop them from messing with you. Those that don't. Don't have that foundation. So, I mean, every time you go over this, it's, it seems pretty crystal clear. Those that are operating, it's kind of presumed that they're operating outside the law, and their actions only go to support those presumptions by the officers. So they feel 100% justified in the things that they do. Mm-hmm. So, it would behoove people to get their lives together, but it's going to take some time for people finally realize how real this is. Maybe going to jail or whatever it takes for people to stop and go. You know what? Maybe there's another way. Maybe just seeing us as examples will help them. Understand that there's another way. But there's always loud voices out there that are always trying to tell people that they don't got to do this and they don't got to do that, and unfortunately people would rather press the easy button and try to go that route than finding a more honorable way, which is operating within the law, understanding your rights and understanding that we're Moorish Americans, and we stand on that. There's no reason to make any bold declarations and all this kind of stuff, and you can obviously go back and the remedy is very clear. The remedy is very, very clear. So, appreciate you continue to shine light on that.
Gratitude as well, Noble. And like we said, and that's what we said, man. We invite people to check out our webpage, bbtsciencetemple.com, so you can come on there for like I said, we want discussion. Like I said, we're gonna start or have a little podcast. We can have discussion of things. If our brothers and sisters know how to speak with sense and not here to combat each other and fight each other, we've been fighting each other long enough. It's like now what we should be here for is to sit down with some reason. Because we're not here to disrespect no one's so-called religion, because that's not my mission. But what we are here, if we say we Moors and we operate a certain way, and when you see others that look like us, we want to make a clear distinction on what it is and what it's not. That's why it's very valid of the basics. Because like we said, man, like Noble Lamarck said, it's gonna baffle us because it's still brothers and sisters that's going to jail. And some of them gonna have to go to jail continuously. And that's just what it is. So like I said, not only gratitude for myself being a mapping guy, but gratitude for y'all brothers, man, to look at me and the inside and the outside and say, well, wait a minute, man, this is what it is. And so we've been, like Lamarck said, we've been going for 5 years. So we're not going to be stopped. We're going to continue to grow. So, yeah, man, that's all I got, man. Gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yeah, well, gratitude, Noble. Well, with that being said, man, we can get out of here. Let's read up on our lessons. Tomorrow we're going to have a Sunday school. But like I said, a trustee on false imprisonment, man, and life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and that law governs all event. All that stuff go hand in hand, man. And what more shouldn't be hiding that from people? You know, no one should be out here still talking about some ID stuff. Like I just didn't understand that was still going on, Nobles. I didn't know. People hit me up
It's
like,
gonna keep going on because, and that, I guess that's the thing is like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I don't see how it's gonna stop anytime soon. Because as long as people, keep running the grocery stores and trying to use that 1010-5905 number,
mm-hmm,
and the people at the grocery store not telling them that it's not, because obviously they don't know any different.
mm-hmm.
Then they gonna tell everybody, "Ooh, look what I did. This is what I did," and it just keeps going on. So I don't see it for stopping anytime soon unless, some major enforcement starts having it to the point where, when they go to use these things, there's something that pops up in the system or something that pops up like that. That's what would get it right. Like every time somebody go use this 1010-5905 number, if there's some alarm that popped up in the system and loss prevention came over there and was like, "Hey, we about to arrest you because you did something." Like, I'm just saying, that's the only thing I think is going to stop. Every time somebody goes to wherever they go and they use it,
See,
they're going to tell the next person, "Oh, look, I used the 1010-5 number." And then, again, how we are. You used it? Oh, shoot, well, let me use it. You know what I mean? And so, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop unless, they don't want to hear people that look like them trying to tell them this because, they feel like, we just ain't down with the cause, or we don't got enough heart to try to, to try it, or all kind of.
You hear what you said? Try it, and that's exactly what I'm glad you saying is try it. We don't arbitrarily explain the law. We don't try nothing. We don't use nobody no crash dummies. See, that's what I love what you say when they say, "Well, try it." We don't trying nothing. We don't send nobody in no burning house. And you just made another fact, which since you said it, I'm gonna go all the way there too. And like the AA22 number that everybody they was trying to use with that CMB stuff. I said, okay, I told people this was gonna happen, man. I told these people this a long time ago. I said, listen, the AA22 number, just like that ain't nothing but like a Library of Congress number, just like Nas got his album in the Library of Congress. That's just like a doc number. That ain't no legal document. It's no legal document. Now it ain't in there no more. And then I don't be disrespecting nobody, but I said that CMB, all that wasn't from no university, wasn't no lawgiver, and that to where you can use that for anything. It's just what it is. I'm sorry. And so that AA22 number, I bet you can't find it nowhere. That ain't connected to no clock of destiny or nothing like that. Now, the 1010-99 number, if you're not part of the Moorish Science Temple, you're using it prematurely anyway, because the 1099 it traced back to the Moorish Science Temple of America, which is in your state booklet. So if anybody using that in there, it's immature. So I don't care what nobody's saying. You can get away with something, but you're still getting a criminal act. You just ain't got caught yet. That's all that means, because the 1010-99 ain't no trust fund at the end of the rainbow. That's an affidavit. I mean, come on. I mean, everybody know I'm telling the truth. You can go look this stuff in the CCRD.
You would think somewhere along the line that you would come back around to be able to find the breadcrumbs somewhere and connect that this is dealing with a corporate politics, body politic, mm-hmm. and that number will ultimately lead them there. Mm-hmm. But like Lamar said, still because of the goofiness, because of people still trying to promulgate this to be something that you can get, like that it's something at the end of the rainbow that you can get, instead of allowing that number to work to where you can now find the breadcrumbs and realize what the prophet done.
Yep. So I'm glad you said that. So let's see what these niggas. I'm glad we having this bill. Only thing they think they finna get is a discount on some dog food or some McDonald's or some tennis shoes at the store. And then they think they're gonna drive without license. Then they think they're gonna squat in the house. I mean, all these things what they got from people. Then they think it's some Moorish American consulate and it's some MAC number. All false. I tell people, listen, if you don't want to pay taxes, just start your own religious organization. And there you go. And then you get a tax exempt ID. And then you don't pay taxes. There you go. Done deal. How hard is that to do? What, ain't we the BBT? If y'all don't want to pay tax, go somewhere and ask them, do they take tax exempt status? They gonna tell you, yeah. What we talking about? I use it every time I travel. I mean, I don't know what these Negroes talking about. So see, well, why do we have to do all these things to break law and we got everything? We are a body politic pertaining to the law. That's what I tell people. I said, they all messed up. Well, you ain't doing that. No, we the Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple in school. I'm through the temple. I went there, for things, but the wisdom is what it is. But I come from there, educated, scholar, and everything. Don't nobody have to deal with that mess. You understand what I'm saying?
Now, see, you know why I'm cheap? Because they don't know the Herb Smith. They don't know the Herb Smith. Because it's breadcrumbs. But we can go over the Herb Smith statute. Why does the church have this type of autonomy when it comes to not paying taxes?
But hey, Alonzo, I would take a step back from there, and I've said this. I've said this, and I think, to me, the saddest part about the movement. Everybody got their own opinion. The saddest part is everybody wants to be the leader.
Yep.
And nobody wants to do anything unless they get to be the leader, right? So that's why you got so many different groups and everybody trying to find a way, because the ego of everybody is, well, I'm the only one that can do it, or you just need to follow me because I'm smarter than everybody else. Everybody's trying to prove that they're smarter than everybody, every other group. That's just the mission, is everybody to prove that. And so because of that, they don't come together, because then that would, in their mind, say that they're not as smart as the next person. And the ego is so strong that people can't accept that. People can't, look at themselves and say, I bring value. They want to say, no, I'm smarter than everybody else. I got this figured out. And so you have everybody trying to prove that they're smarter than every other Moor, that they're smarter than every other European, that they're smarter than every other scholar, that they're smarter than. And so this perpetuates because, again, the ego is so strong, so strong that it's hard for people to get out of their own way. So it would be better if we all could understand that we all are a part of something and can be a part of something. But that's not what people want to prove. They want to prove that I'm smarter and I know, and I done all the research on the Moorish Science Temple of America, and I done all the research on all the whatever, and I done all the research, and I done figured it all out. But like Sheik always said, when you look at people's lives, you look at how they're living, you look at the way they're functioning, the people I feel saddest for are the women. Because there's so many women out there that are rocking with dudes, and women just love, they love men. They want, they love the essence of us, but they're being led so many different directions, and they're seeing dudes doing so many different things, and they don't know any different. So they assume that, oh, well, you seem like a sharp cat. Maybe you know what you're talking about, And so it's just sad. I feel for all these women out there that are following and rocking with dudes that are, that care more about being recognized as being smart, being recognized as being, a leader of whatever, and not understanding that, there's value in just working together. If you could just get the Moors as men just to understand the value of working together, just that, then I think you can get somewhere. But everybody's trying to prove that they're smarter than everybody else, and until that stops, I don't know. So.
Yeah, and like I said, oh, somebody go ahead, Noble.
No, that was it. I was done. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Gratitude, Noble.
Yeah,
Gratitude.
But like you said, that's the work of this, man. Like you said, everybody gravitate to things like how everybody on the internet, this leader or this person said this better, or this person know this more about the Moorish Science Temple. Being the Moor is not knowing about the Moorish Science Temple, because most people today weren't even back then when Noble Drew Ali created the Moorish Science Temple. And anything that Noble Drew Ali did, it was already written. The Moorish Quran is a compilation. The wisdom is all there. So when we talk about the temple, we just talking about structure. That's the only thing to be known about the temple is the structure and how you can operate in your religious rights. But arguing over who's some supreme grand wizard, who the supreme grand sheik, and who got the authority to do all this? Man, that ain't no real Moorish court. When you see all them people talk about they the Moorish consulate and all that, then the Moorish consulate go to jail, and then the Moroccan president and all that, and then the other Moors they all go to jail and all that. That tells you that that's all trash. And so, yes, the reason why it's separate because it's a false pretense of what being a Moor consists of. It's been a false pretense that you can go get some ID and you don't have to go by these laws and you don't have to have a driver's license. You can squat in houses. You can claim this. So we have to be truthful on what's the misconception of Moorish science. And that's where I think it can be rebuilt. And everybody else have to be honest too. You know what I mean? Where things come from and the makeup where people get all this confusion and all this, well, this person said they the Supreme Grand Sheik and this person say they don't got no rights to do this. And I'm like, well, pertaining to what? A court or wisdom and understanding? Because you were the Moor way before the Moorish Science Temple of America, brothers and sisters. Now, no disrespect to the prophet. I can go way back. I can take you to Deuce Muhammad Ali. And we started doing the numbers.
You're right though, but you got so many quote unquote sheiks and people throughout time that have led people the wrong way that people are basically hurt and burned and they tried to rock with somebody and that person wasn't righteous and was either holding information back or not being honorable in what they were doing because they had some other ego going. And so you got, so many people that have ran across people like that they just now use that as a blanket statement to say that everybody that way, all sheiks are that way. Everything is that way. Instead of understanding that, you just dealt with somebody that wasn't honorable. You know what I mean? That's all it was.
And, what the person looking for. Because when we look at what she consists of and what adapt consists of, that's the whole nother thing. We got caught in like you said, titles and catchphrases. When a person can dress up in something, I'll give you an analogy when a person say, oh, black faith, that means that person is sheik. And the person say, oh, you can't get a black faith, you can't get this sheik, or a person that say, well, they're a sheik just because they watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos and all that. But what make you a sheik? Pertaining to the wisdom, pertaining to the understanding. If you went through the ciphers of the religious wisdom, if you educated and went through all these things, if you're a fisher of men, so what makes you a sheik? Because it could be, like you said, Lamar, it could be a plethora of sheiks. More science, that's just the lingo in the temple. When you call them sheiks and grand governors. But okay, take that out, take that vernacular out, and you say, okay, well, if you don't know what the Moorish Science Temple is and the vernacular of the temple, and you say, well, man, I'm a priest, and these are my understudies, and blah, 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 or these are my under ministers or whatever, or these are my apostles or whatever. There ain't no difference to me. You see? It wouldn't be no different to me. It's just the words that we're using. And so I always go back to the structure of wisdom that makes you a sheik. The experience and the wisdom and the guidance that make brothers good. Because us talking about a whole bunch of dead stuff and a whole bunch of old stuff and the temple, man, that I don't think we need to be talking about that. I think that's a waste of our time to be arguing about who said this, that, and the other, and arguing over that and arguing with the police and telling y'all to and get rid of your license and all that goofy stuff and talking about you some foreign national, and that's an oxymoron. How can you be a foreign and a national? See, what we have to do is destroy all this stuff that we won't say where it came from. When I ask people like, well, who told you were a foreign national? Where are you getting these plates from with no Ali on this? What are you talking about? You're not an American citizen. Where is this stuff coming from? That has to be broke down off the top, universally. All those things has to be brought to the light, and all those are issues. Look at all these other issues where you even got women making ID travel cards. What they calling them? International travel cards. Why would you need an international travel card you make for somebody off the internet? What you getting ready to do with that? Think about this stuff. And so we have to break this down across the board and see where the scam have came from a global stage, just like in this so-called pay for your leisure, sit at home thing. You have to look at that whole thing with a pictorial, just like pocket watchers do. So you have to look at all this whole scam. It's all a scam. You got the whole scam in the conscious community thing, and you got the whole now thing with pay for your leisure, and every black person think they're gonna invest in this and make money. So you have to go back to the root of it. Once you deal with the root of the thing, then it can be destroyed every time from a global stage. You see? That's where I stand with it, Nobles. Because everybody I meet, they say the same thing. They ask me the same thing. Well, what about being nationalized, Sheik? And I say, well, who can nationalize you? And nobody will be like where they got it from. Because I know everybody got it from. And they won't say. But then they let the same characters get them, Noble Lamarck and Noble Alonzo. When they talk about they want to expatriate from this de facto government, they won't never say where they got it from. But we know, I know, you know.
Yeah, I don't be worried. Dude, if that's what makes you happy, man. I mean, I hope you go to wherever you want to go on the planet, and I hope you find whatever it is that you're looking for, man. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
you know what I mean? Like,
yep.
Great, you know what I mean? But let me know how that all works out.
Yes.
But like I said, it's all ego driven because it's still, they're still not, it'd be different if they would expatriate and then work together, you know what I mean? But it's still ego because they're like, I'm expatriate, and now you by yourself, you still ain't working with nobody, which to me is still counter to the essence of what being a Moor is supposed to be about. So it's like, it's just all rooted in the ego. I don't, like I said, that's just, to me, that's always been the saddest part, about this is that, everybody has so much ego. You know what I mean? So much ego. I mean, we all know the study of Sufism is really overcoming the ego. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because the ego is an MF, boy, and if you don't get a handle on it, if you don't really see it for what it is, it'll take you a lot of places. And that's why I said I feel for the women. I feel for all these women, that rock with, quote unquote Moorish men, because, the women, are pure at heart, and they just love, they men, and they want to be there and support. But he just take them so many different directions that, the women never understand the essence of how to come together and how to work with and how to be a part of something that's real. And I really think the women would definitely appreciate being a part of something real, but they get burnt, by so many bad experiences that, now, it gets hard for them, and they start, looking at everybody thinking, well, everybody doing that. It's like, nah, everybody ain't doing that. I mean, everybody ain't,
yep.
On that goofy stuff. Everybody ain't trying to, file 99 pieces of paper and
you just said something, Lamarck. People expectations. A lot of people expect, you just said something on the flip side, because I can say on the flip side of that as well. When a person on the flip side, people be coming in wanting that. So when you come to some real food and you've been eating McDonald's all the time, you don't want that. When I talk about rat poison, the rat poison ain't all poison. There got to be something in there the rat go to. And so it's the same thing. People be wanting a certain thing. They come to righteousness, and then the first thing, well, when can you nationalize me, Sheik? Well, I want to these people that. Well, I'm trying to get this. I need to do this. I need to come out this. Well, I'm getting ready to go to jail. Well, I need this paperwork. You see? So those are what a lot of things they be coming into as well. And when they come to some real, and it ain't that, you can find what you're looking for in your lower spirit. I can name them, and the ones that I don't want to name their name, but the real name, the last brother is locked up. The other brother, El Hodge with the feds, is locked up right now. I know the other brother at right now, so I just be telling the truth,
Islam. No, it's really to what Lamarck is saying to that point. To add on to say gratitude, definitely for those points, because it really comes back to the 5 principles. That love, that truth, that peace, freedom, and justice, and really as men, not even dealing with no more stuff. Like just as men who are honorable, like that part, like really getting back to that. I remember when she talked about just having men meet, like things that we got to get right with ourselves, like that we can't point the finger at anyone else.
Nope.
Things that we got to do our own shadow work. We got to do our own digging.
Yep.
Because it's going to take a lot of support to uplift fallen humanity, and we know who fallen humanity is. That's styled by the prophet is the woman.
Yep.
So when you're dealing with that, you understand that she got her own shadow work and digging to do that we can't help with.
Yep.
That's something that we ain't even got to. That's something that a law that's in that level and that frequency and that vibration that woman is dealing with in her recovery to become whole herself. As for us, we have our own work to do, so that when that day fully manifests, that we could be ready to be who we need to be. But we have to do our own work, and start with being responsible and accountable, and really being honest with ourselves. And to know what Lamar's point, to realize that that ego is a trap, and that it's okay to not have it all together, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to be a student. What, you want to have all teachers? Who are you going to teach? Who are you going to teach?
Yep. Yep.
So with that, I say Islam.
Islam. That's why I said, man, like me and my mom, she says she like the thing that our people and even all people, we got to get used to somebody looking like you, teaching you in all aspects, especially wisdom. We got to get used to that. That's the thing that we're not used to. Like we dinosaurs. It's like this is what we went to the university for. This is when the brothers were supposed to go to Howard and all those black universities. What? To be the preachers and the teachers. See, this is a fact. Who else was going to do it? You know?
Islam.
And so, yeah, man, that's what I say, man. I have joy, man, to learn from y'all brothers, man, and be a part of this cipher, you know, and be someone that y'all trust. And as we continue to learn, that's what it's about. That's what all this is about. And so, like Lamarck said, and all it's not easy. When man honor man, and we honoring Allah, this ain't the simple thing to do. We going against the grain, man. Shoot, we going against the grain. So yeah, we gonna always be able to be a spinning image of righteousness. Everybody gonna be able to come to our webpage or anything and see what it is and what it's not, and see a clean glass and a dirty glass. You can put it right next to each other, because a lot of people, Noble Alonzo and Lamarck, doesn't mean success. That means you can just have a lot of people caught up in rapture. A lot of people can be brainwashed. We know what that's about. We know a lot of people can be under a mental spell. We know about that so-called persuasion and that influencer. That's all these people are under, a mental spell. That's all. That's all it is. And people and those type of individuals play on the week. You will see them. All the ones that got caught up in that stuff on the highway, they was all preyed on the week because they told on themselves. Everything else is all prey on the weak. Like Lamarck was saying, the women and the babies. When you see the women and the babies on the edge of the highway, like, you can't arrest the consulate of Morocco, the Moroccan general. The police like, shut up, or I'll kick you in the head. Yeah, with your baby. And see, and that's like I tell Lamarck, and like Lamarck's saying, and we feel for our empresses. And then not only that, to hear these cronies live calling these girls from home, collect, and talking about, you see what they did to me? See, all this is false. And they look at and all the videos, they got factor fraud. They like, man, arrest, felony with a gun, arrest. All this stuff. Operating as some foreign national. Man, that's a high-class felony. You know, impersonating international law, that's a high-class felony. How you a Moroccan, the Consulate General of Morocco over here in the States? What you doing over here, sir? Walking up, getting off the highway, talking about ho, ho, ho. What are you talking about? You see? So, man, like I said, I'm glad that since we've been doing this, y'all, we ain't had no problems. We had never had no problems. I don't care. We had one issue with the factor fraud. The European jumped on my page, no disrespect. And then I knew he was a Mason from Illinois, and then that was done real fast. Because you have to research a person when they coming. We have the right to do what we do. We're not here disrespecting no one. I love my European brothers, especially my European lower level Masons, because they know they sons of Muslims. All my Scottish Rite Mason brothers, they ain't hide nothing. They know it. They know that they sons of Muslims. So they're not the joke of Masonry. So when I speak, I'm speaking from love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, like Noble Alonzo said. So with that, I say, man, peace and love, nobles. With that, I say peace and love. But great deal, man. It's good to have these heart-to-heart talks. It's good. But we definitely need to have these ciphers, y'all, when Moors be having questions. When Moors be having questions, because a lot of Moors be having questions, and the thing that I noticed, they can't even get their questions asked. It's like, you know why a person won't answer your question? Because they're not a teacher. They trying to convert you to something or trying to get you to do something. They're trying to use you as a lab rat. And you don't want to do that. It's like you that's one of the things, everybody has questions. Everybody. And so as a student and as an educator and as a teacher should be able to sit every student down. And not and as a student, it's a commitment on everybody in. When I tell people, no one's paying me. If you believe in something, then we cool. But if not, I'm not here to convince you of nothing. But based on our understanding, but based on our teachings and based on our tenets, when you're dealing with me, a sheikh, another teacher, and as a priest and as a rabbi, it's certain things that should be done, that should be willing. That's it. It ain't nothing else. And so with that being said, man, the only way we're gonna learn is to be students, man. And like I said, I give gratitude to y'all brothers, man, and y'all men for us coming together from all our different backgrounds, man, and coming together as one and continue to love on each other, man. So once again, man, I give gratitude, peace, and love, man.
Peace and love, gratitude. Hey, peace and love. About my extreme tardiness.
Are you good, Noble?
Got a lot going on over here, but I made it at the end.
That's long.
Peace and love.
Yep. You know, you got the docs read up on it. And all the stuff we do, man, is just to slow us down. You know, and have us relax and be like, wait a minute, man, if we got this spirit and all this stuff in us, why are we so mad? Why the Christians so mad? Why the Moors so mad? Why the Muslims so mad? Like, who are you mad at if you have joy? If you resurrected? What a joy should replace all the anger. Joy should. You would think if you have something good, you would think. So, yeah, man. So once again, all I can say is gratitude and again in love, nobles. Let's do our Moorish American prayer and do our benediction, and we out of here.
Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is our protector, our guide, and our salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Shalom Aleichem, Aya Asher Aya. Peace, 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 and love.
Islam, gratitude. Our talisman benediction reads as follows. May the benediction of Allah continue to be. Hold on, it's late. Pulling me over. I'm driving. Hold on. I apologize, Noble.
You good, Noble?
All right, Islam. Islam, I'm good. May the benediction of Allah be with thee and thine always, as thou shouldst strive to be a credit to Allah. Make haste to bestow thine acts of love upon thy brethren, and do the best to shun thine evil ones. Remember to take suckle of the breast of knowledge, wisdom, fortitude, charity, love, and all standing, that you might nourish the souls of men. Let truth be the shield in the manifest battle of falsehood. Know that Moors need not to pick the locks of the gates of paradise by the means of death or petty theft. Behold, the keys to salvation already rest within thine own hands. And yes, even though a portion of our nature is with instability and inconstancy, there still is the greater part of our nature that is divine. May Allah protect thee, guide thee, preserve thee, lengthen thy age, and give thee everlasting peace. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Haq, Ya Muhammad. And when we say Al-Haq, that's Arabic and it stands for the truth. And when we say Yamu Hamid, Arab, and it stands for the protector. We at BBT see ourselves as truth protectors. So we casting our net out to all those true light seekers to come on and join on to us, for the truth has no sides, as the truth is one, as man is with Allah. And with that, we say love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
Peace.
Islam.
Islam. Peace.
Islam.
Peace, 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 peace. Love y'all, nobles. Peace and love. Peace. Peace.
Peace.